And that's what we have to do. We have to ensure that we're getting to our young people before they get to the criminal justice system. We have to ensure that we're giving individuals that deserve a second chance at triumph the opportunity to do so. And so from my perspective, I'm going to continue to do that.
Told to me that the thing about her is she's a fighter.
Well, I have to say, I'm going to fight for my community. And I think that that's, my record, again, speaks for itself, whether it's police accountability, applying justice fairly and equally to everybody, regardless of one's sex, religion, occupation. You know, this job requires that you fight. And I'm going to fight until we make transformative systemic changes within the criminal justice system. I can tell you that, you know, I know a lot of folks always bring up Freddie Gray. And what I can tell you is I wouldn't do anything differently in Freddie Gray. You know, those, and I say this all the time, but that accountability where we apply justice fairly and equally to everybody. And you guys, you can remember this was 4 months into my term, my first term. And this innocent 25-year-old black man by the name of Freddie Carlos Gray Jr., when he makes eye contact with a police officer, is unreasonably, and I still believe unconstitutionally, arrested and placed in a wagon head first, feet shackled and handcuffed, you know, and his pleas for medical attention were ignored. I would not do anything differently. So you apply justice fairly and equally. That accountability ultimately led to reform. A week after I charged those officers, the Department of Justice came in, exposed discriminatory policing practices in one of the largest police agencies in the country, and that exposure ultimately led to reform. Reform meaning we have a federally enforceable consent decree that is on record. And because of that reform, we have a spotlight that has been shown on the entrenched police corruption. So although those individual officers weren't held criminally responsible, every single police officer is being held accountable for the actions of a few, and that's better than I could have ever hoped for.
It has been stated that because of the actions you took 4 months into your administration, that prior state's attorneys would never have taken those kind of actions. And so now what we have is your effect in 4 months. And even though the cases went the way they went,
you listen to State's Attorney Marilyn Moseby.
It's clear in your mind that you did what was right.
Well, that's your job as a prosecutor. I've always wanted to reform the criminal justice system when I look at how it has had a disproportionate impact on communities of color. And I can tell you that being a prosecutor not only affects you know, defendants and victims, individuals that are accused of crime, but we can see all across this country how that discretion, that awesome amount of power, has collateral consequences on our communities. And so, you know, one of the things that convinced me to be a prosecutor is the mission of a prosecutor is always to seek justice over convictions. That is the only metric. That means you look yourself in the mirror every single day and your job is to do the right thing.
Wow.
I'm okay with that. And I know I can sleep at night because I know that, you know, the past 3 years, that has been my mission, is to do the right thing no matter what the consequences of that are. You know, the backlash that comes with it. That's what the people have elected me to do. That's what I am dedicated and passionate about doing every single day.
And I got to admit, you have been extremely transparent with us and responsive to every call we've ever made to say, we need to hear from you, and you've been responsive. Your record is going to be put out there by others. What is the Marilyn Moseby record, and what are some of the achievements? I have particular interest in your pop-ups, because you have, you really made sure, and just me speaking for myself, to make sure that young folks knew that you were about the business of caring for them.
So I think it's really important because when you look at what's happening, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm the state's attorney, but it is so disheartening. It breaks my heart when last year alone I had to charge more young people, juveniles, twice as many juveniles with attempted murder and murder than the past 2 years. And it's so disheartening because we haven't made that investment in our young people, yet we want to sit up here and we want to demonize them. You know, how, oh, juvenile crime is, you know, off the hook. What are we doing about it? We have to invest in them. And so, you know, I created a crime control and prevention division within my office. You know, we have several programs that are geared toward various ages. We have the Great Expectations program that focuses on 4th and 5th graders. We go into 3 schools, 2 in West Baltimore, 1 in East Baltimore. where we expose these young kids to the positive careers within the criminal justice system. You remember when we had Officer Friendly in the school?
I remember.
We've been doing this for 3 years now.
I remember.
So we have the 4th and the 5th graders. We go in once a month, and we see them. We bring judges. We bring in SWAT. We bring in all these different actors within the criminal justice system.
That's what I'm talking
we
about.
We then have the junior state attorney program, where we got over 300 applications this year for 45 slots, where those are the up-and-coming 9th graders. We start from the beginning of a case in the 911 call center to the evidence control room, Foxtrot, Federal Circuit District Court, and at the culmination of the 6 weeks, they do a mock trial competition at the University of Baltimore School of Law, where they can then see themselves as judges and prosecutors and police. And we partnered with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development last year, and we paid those young people. Then we just recently launched a new program, which is called Project 17, where we are in Frederick Douglass High School and Renaissance Academy. Both of these schools, have gotten bad publicity, but these are really good kids. And we're targeting 11th and 12th graders who are chronically truant, right? Who aren't going to school and are making bad decisions. And the reason why we're doing this, and is that we want to get them on the right path, so that they're not gonna. There's a direct correlation to truancy and getting involved in the criminal justice system. So we went to Frederick Douglass, we sat down with these young people and said, what do you need? What do you think we can, how can we reduce crime? And rather than us tell them, they told us, we want economic opportunities. We want mentorship. So with Project 17, we've collaborated with the small business community, and we're targeting those 11th and 12th graders. We want to give them a stipend for the first month for their internship. And then these businesses have stepped up. T-Volve Cafe, Homemade, so many different small businesses throughout the city who are saying, yeah, I'll provide not only an employment opportunity for them after school and during the weekends, but I'm also going to provide mentorship so that they learn how to be entrepreneurs. So that public-private partnership is so important, and that's what the pop-ups were all about. In the summertime, when these young people were getting out of school, we know that there was an increase in youth violence. What are we doing about it? So for 12 weeks, every Friday night, between the hours of 6 and 9, we had pop-ups where these young people were going to laser tag and bowling and skate night, and it was free to them. These were experiences that they wouldn't otherwise have. We touched more than 2,437 young people. So it was so successful. We had, it was so successful. We created and started doing it in the wintertime. So we're doing it once a month. We can't do it every week, but it's a matter of resources. But we have to make that investment in our young people.
That's good.
Coach?
Go ahead,
Good
Coach.
morning.
Good morning, Coach.
Yes. Talk about how, look, we all, in every job that we've had some growth and development. And these last years, talk about the growth and development that you felt that
we
you
listened to the state's attorney,
had,
Baltimore City, Marilyn Moseby. She running for re-election.
The state's attorney.
So, what I can say is I've had challenges, and what I can say is some of my disappointments is that reform and change is not something that takes place overnight. And if I could do things differently, I would. I wish it was faster. I wish it was at a quicker pace, right? But I also understand that I'm in this for the long term, and I'm on a mission, which is why I'm running, and it's so important. So I would say that change takes a while, and when you're in the midst of change, it feels so uncomfortable, right? Like right now, we feel uncomfortable, but we're going to look back in retrospect and say this was a turning point for, changing the culture of the police department and community and law enforcement relationships in the city of Baltimore. So I think that's extremely disappointing. And the other thing that I had to kind of learn how to do is to personally not internalize the negativity. I can say that, those first few months, you're like, hey, what's this all about? Red Nation rising and getting hate mail and death threats, and they describing how my husband is going to, be killed coming outside my house, and no police are going to respond. And you're saying all I did was do my job. I followed the law with the facts and, applied justice fairly and equally. But what I also understood going through these past 3 years, and it feels like 35 and a half years, let me tell you, is that it's greater than me individually, right? It's not about me. It's not about Marilyn Moseby. It's about what Marilyn Moseby represents. When you look at prosecutors, these are the individuals who decide who's going to be charged, what they're going to be charged with, what sentence recommendations they're going to make. It's an awesome amount of discretion. You cannot ignore the fact that 95% of the prosecutors in this country are white and 79% are white men. And as a woman of color, I represent 1% of all elected prosecutors in this country. So once I understood that it's not about me personally, but what I represent, I was able to say, I'm not internalizing this, and I'm going to continue to do my job because I'm going to push against the status quo, and I'm going to make changes.
The other question would be that you have a number of attorneys are talking about the immediate reinstatement of the police officers' names to the Maryland Judiciary Case Search online database. What is your reaction to that? Do you agree or disagree with that?
So I think my record pretty much speaks for itself when it comes to transparency. I think that transparency is the root of reform, and I've been fighting for, this same sort of transparency for a very long time in the 3 years that I've been in office. And when I say my record speaks for itself, you have to think about some of the things that we've put in place. We are the only state's attorney's office in the state of Maryland who posts decisions and the rationale behind our declinations when we decide not to proceed on use of force cases for police officers. So you can go right online and see all of that information. When we talk about Court Watch, we've implemented a Court Watch program which allows the community to follow the progress of pertinent cases within their neighborhood. They can go online and use their smartphones to follow and track cases. And then when you think, again, it's a matter of my record, we're the only sort of state attorney office that has an annual report with a comprehensive summation of the activities from the previous year to year. So transparency is something that I am extremely big on and something that I think is needed, especially to be able to break down those barriers of distrust.
Coach.
Yes.
Her time with us is up. And the day when she's...
Wow, that was short.
I'm sorry. Just the minutes...
too short. Now, when you come back, you got to give us a little more time.
It's not her dealing. So it's just something that was worked out. We can only do equal time from here on out.
Wow.
That's just how it goes. The political clock.
Well, that's true.
We're in the political clock now, Coach, but I'll be back.
She's never been afraid to come back. So we'll work through it, okay? State's Attorney, thank you for coming by this way.
Thank you,
and we'll catch you through the campaign season.
I appreciate it.
It's fine. It's 9:20 here on 1010 WOLB.
That's it. Oh, Marilyn Moseby.
In memory of the Godfather of Soul.
I gotta find Marilyn Moseby, the state's attorney, and interview some more on Facebook Live. Good day, Baltimore.